So you remember that election that happened 2 years ago with Kathleen Wynne, Doug Ford, other person?
Yeah, well, you mean last year, right? 2018?
Sure, yes, last year, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it.
I got a confession.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't vote.
Sorry, what?
It is election season here in Canada, and everyone is talking about it. For those of you who don't know, the federal election is coming up, which means that we as Canadians have to choose who's going to be the leading political party of Canada, and in turn, basically, who's going to be the Prime Minister of Canada. And if you're Canadian, you already know all about the election, or if you've been paying attention to the news, you've probably heard some of it now, but it's a big deal of an election. And I really wanted to make a video about the election, but I didn't really know what kind of video I wanted to make. But I've made videos about this before. Well, that's kind of what it's like when you choose not to vote. Everyone's made videos about why you should vote, why your vote matters, you know, all this stuff. I mean, like, my main thing was, what could I do that was different from everybody else in terms of this election? How could I make this video of more value to the people who watch this? And I thought that I would share a little story about the time that I chose not to vote. And I know it's not something I'm particularly proud of, but you know, I thought I'd share it anyways. But before I get to that, I just want to let you know that on this channel next week, I'm going to be doing a Q&A with all your questions. So if you have any questions for me about filmmaking, quitting my job, going full-time freelance, making coffee, my favorite color, why I wear t-shirts all the time, any questions that you have, please leave them in the comment section below, and I will answer all your questions next week. And I'm so excited to do this because I haven't done a Q&A in actually quite a while, and a lot has changed in my life since I've done the Q&A, and I'm really pumped to do one. So remember to leave your comments in the question section. Leave your questions in the comment section below, and I will answer them next week. So back to my story. Unfortunately. So I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but basically in Ontario, which by the way, Ontario is like a state of Canada, except we don't call them states, we call them provinces, and they're big, and they've got a lot of cities in them, and you know, it's basically like a state, but it's a province. But anyways, so Ontario was having its big election, I think last year or the year before, and this election was a very confusing one. It was confusing because I don't think anybody knew exactly who to vote for. People who were supporting one party didn't really like the leader who was leading that party or the direction they were going. People who were supporting another party didn't like their leader or didn't like, you know, whatever policies. And everyone was just like, I don't know who to vote for. Or at least that's what I felt like. To kind of give you context, this was the election where Kathleen Wynne, who had been the premier for a few years now, was running again, but I don't think many people were happy with her. And on the other hand, in the Conservatives, you had Doug Ford, who was the brother of not Tom Ford, not that amazing designer, but Rob Ford. Rob Ford, who was who's very famous for the crack scandal that made him famous. But the main problem was that when I looked at the people who were running, I didn't like any of them. Like, I didn't like either of the parties, and I didn't like any of the politicians. And I was just kind of at that point in my life where I was just like, you know what, politics isn't going to change anything. This is useless. What's even the point of voting? Like, I was basically becoming an anarchist without knowing it. I don't know. It was weird, but I was kind of losing my faith in politics. Previously, before that, I actually did work on a few campaigns, and then I just kind of felt like, you know, like, I don't know, I guess I got bummed out about politics, but whatever. So election day comes, and I remember I was working a very long day that day. My boss said that technically you could go and leave to go vote, but I opted out of that, and I decided I'm going to stay and work. So I get home, and I get home later than usual. I get home around 7:30, and the polls close at 9, and I was like, I don't want to go vote. And there were many reasons why I didn't want to go vote. The first reason was that I actually had to get in my car and wait in line for 30 minutes to go actually vote. And, you know, I just didn't want to spend 30 minutes at the polling station. And the second reason was because, you know, I didn't think that this was going to make a difference. I didn't think that my vote would change anything. And not only that, I couldn't make up my mind on who to vote. Like, no one actually had my genuine support. I didn't even want to support any of the parties because I thought, what's the point? Like, they're all equally terrible, in my opinion. Not saying that they are equally terrible, just I didn't really believe in what they believed. So I just thought, what's the point of even participating in the vote? I'm just gonna stay home and watch Netflix because there's a lot of good shows on Netflix nowadays, and it's pretty good. I like Netflix. Netflix is great. And I went to sleep, and I remember waking up in the morning, scrolling through my Twitter feed, and I'm like, oh, Doug Ford has won. And I remember not really thinking much about it because either I can't remember if I was like, oh, we should give Doug Ford a chance. Everyone thinks he's terrible, but we should give him a chance, just for fun. Or I just thought, what, he's not really gonna do anything. This whole process is pointless. I didn't really think much of it at first, and boy, was I wrong. By like a lot. Not like a little bit, but like a lot. And the reason why I say this is because there have been a lot of cuts in a lot of services in Ontario, and it hasn't been good. The reason why I regret not voting is because I underestimated how much of a difference my vote makes in the election, right? Because I'm not the only one who thought, who cares if I don't vote? There's many other people who didn't vote, I'm assuming. I should probably check. And I guess the other big problem, which I'm assuming other people have as well, is that they think that politics won't affect them. They could live their life without being affected by politics and it will be okay. And that is completely wrong. The thing is, politicians, political parties and all that make decisions that affect our lives every day. Whether it has to do with taxes, with cuts, with decisions, social decisions and all that. And by not participating in voting, it's like saying that I don't feel like I'm a member of this country. And there's, a lot of problems with that. But the point is, and the moral of the story is that if I could go back knowing what I know now, I would vote. I would have voted. I wish I didn't. I wasn't lazy and just stayed at home and watched Netflix and instead went out, waited in line, even for an hour, just to vote for who I thought would be the best leader for the country, or at the time, the province. But with the election coming up, I think it's important that I tell people this story because I really wish I voted. I mean, maybe it wouldn't have made a difference, but the thing is that as long as I had my say out there, I can't go around and be like, oh, this person is terrible, because the thing is if I didn't vote, I didn't really voice my issues when it mattered. Now that it doesn't matter, now that the whole thing, now that the person's already in office or whatever, it doesn't matter what I say. They've already won. And so October 21st for us Canadians is a big day. And for those of you who are considering not voting, as a person who didn't vote last time, I would suggest just vote, right? Maybe you won't feel as regretful as I did, or maybe you will, but what's the point in trying to, wait until then to figure that out? Just go vote now. And yeah, that's my message. Just go vote. It's not worth not voting. You might regret it at the end of the yeah. You might just regret it. Whatever. What am I saying? I don't really know. Whew, that feels good to get off my chest. Wow. But I still feel like I'm not done. I gotta go do something else. This is Gazem. He's a very close friend of mine, but he's also worked on many political campaigns. And since he's the one that got me into politics, I feel like I should confess this to him. I don't think he's gonna take it well.
Hello?
Hey, Kazem, it's me.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how about you?
Good.
So you remember that election that happened 2 years ago with Kathleen Wynne, Doug Ford, other person?
Yeah, well, you mean last year, right? 2018?
Sure, yes, last year, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it.
I got a confession.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't vote.
Sorry, what?
I didn't vote for anybody.
So wait a second. You didn't vote in the last provincial election in 2018 at all? Like, not even like you marked your ballot for someone else and then kind of threw it away or something? Like, nothing at all?
Yeah, that's correct.
Are you freaking kidding me, man? Like,
I mean, like, does it really matter that I voted? I mean, like, I'm just one vote, right? Like, who cares?
If, one vote, if you think that one vote doesn't matter, I've been involved in politics for a little bit, and I know elections which have come down to a coin toss because the vote tally were tied. So I'm sorry, but you're wrong. Your vote does matter.
Damn, okay. Now I feel terrible.
That's fine. Listen, it's not a, we all kind of make mistakes. We got to learn from them. I think the problem is that sometimes we don't see ourselves represented in politics. And the best way to break that barrier is by voting, but also volunteering, also by talking to our members of parliament or other politicians. So we kind of get how the system works. Otherwise, if we don't get involved, if we're not at the table, we're on the menu.
So, Gazem obviously knows that this is a YouTube video and that this is for YouTube, but I thought I'd have him on because he knows a lot about politics. So, Gazem, final thing is, for all the 20 people watching this video, what if they're undecided about voting, what would you tell them right now?
What I would say is that politics impacts you, whether you like it or not, whether you vote or not. If you do vote, your choice can determine the government that you get. That affects everything from your healthcare, your education, immigration, to climate action now. I think that's the reason why we should vote. If you're undecided on voting, read the platforms. If you don't know what the platforms are or what decisions to make, ask your friends and peers. Ask the candidates. Get more information. Our system's only as strong as the people who vote for it, so get engaged and get involved.
You heard him, so go vote. And also, final question, what do you think my viewers should do right after watching this video?
They should go make a plan to vote on October 21st, which is Monday. They should also subscribe to your YouTube channel, just by the way.
There we go. That's what I was looking for. So make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks, Gazem.
Yeah.
Oh, and like and comment, of course. Like, why would he forget that? Also, before we end this video, next week, like I mentioned before, we're gonna be having a Q&A on this channel, so you can ask me any questions. But you think of the questions, and I'll think of the answers, and then we'll meet back here next week, and I will answer your questions. So you can either leave them in the comment section below, you can go on my Instagram, @MateenManic, and just like my stuff there, and then give me a question, or just give me a question altogether, and then I will see you guys in the next video with your questions. Thank you.